Daryl Davis plays a hot piano. It's part of the show, and it makes him stand out. He also stands out here. Davis is one of the few African Americans you will ever find attending a KKK rally. More than attending, he is welcome.
I got more respect for that black man than I do you white niggers out there.
It is something we never see. A black man attending KKK rallies, where crosses are burning and racist views are being spewed.
What is it that compels someone to sit down and talk to their worst enemies instead of fighting?
Some of their beliefs are that African Americans, black people, are born with smaller brains, that we are inherently lazy, we are inherently prone to crime, raping people, especially white women.
Despite that offensive ideology, Daryl Davis has spent decades befriending members of the Ku Klux Klan.
How do you talk to someone when someone's calling you the N-word?
Because you take the higher road. You know who you are.
You have a lot of strength to do this work, but it should not be the responsibility of the oppressed to educate the oppressor.
I disagree. It is the responsibility of all of us with any amount of knowledge to share that knowledge with those who do not have it. I'm tired of hearing, I'm not my brother's keeper. I am my brother's keeper. We all are brothers.
Daryl believes the only way to end racism is to confront it head on.
Progress is made when you give somebody a platform where they can express their views, even if you don't agree with them. When two enemies are talking, they're not fighting, they're talking. It's when the talking ceases that the ground becomes fertile for violence. If you have an adversary, someone with an opposing point of view, regardless of how extreme it may be, and believe me, I've heard things that have cut me to the bone, but give that person a platform. Allow them to air their views. And when you do things like that, there is an excellent chance that people will reciprocate. In order for me to speak my mind, I have to listen to somebody else's. Look, if somebody is willing to talk to you and learn something from you, don't you think that you have a responsibility to reciprocate? Always keep the lines of communication open with your adversaries, regardless of what the topic is. When two enemies are talking, they're not fighting. They might be yelling and screaming and shouting and beating their fists on the table, but at least they're talking, they're not fighting. When I first began interviewing Klan members, oftentimes they would answer the question, but they wouldn't turn around and say, well, what do you think? They felt I was inferior. I had nothing to offer in terms of my opinion.
Mine don't matter. I don't mind because you don't matter.
But then over time, as the relationship develops, slowly but surely they began asking me questions. That was the first clue that the tide was turning. Oh, all of a sudden, my opinion matters? Let's see where this is going. All right, my friend.
Somebody violated their oath.
His conversations with Klansmen resulted in something Daryl never expected.
I would find things in common. And as I began to build on those commonalities, the things that we had in contrast as trivial as skin color began to matter less and less. And as I built upon those commonalities, a relationship was formed.
Why do you prefer to meet Klan members face to face?
They can't know the real me through email or through Facebook. Just sitting across from somebody, meeting somebody, getting that sense of them, that's the key right there.
I'll defend my race, my faith, and my homeland. Come on, man.
White people did dominate this country, control this country, created this country, were the architects of the country. They want to preserve their neighborhoods, their ethnic identity, all those things that they can identify with as a people.
Now, I guess in your opinion, you would call it being defiled if you were to have black blood in you, or if your daughter or one of your family members were to have some black blood in them.
I would consider it probably a further erosion of white people towards the ultimate conclusion of white genocide.
You know Daryl's wife is white?
I'm aware of that.
How do you feel about that?
I certainly find it reprehensible.
But what is reprehensible about it?
Pardon?
What is reprehensible about it? She loves me, I love her.
Whatever. You know, I'm not going to try to argue, even discuss it, argue with the point is, you know, you're a black man. You see the world from a different worldview than I do.
Well, apparently
So,
she and I see the same worldview.
Well, I'm just telling you the way I see it.
I've heard you use the term genocide, but I understand you don't believe the Holocaust happened.
Are you talking about Holocaust of the Russian people?
I just read that you...
I mean, 63 million Russian Christian Ukrainians were killed and murdered by the Soviets in 1920. Are you talking about that Holocaust?
I read that you awakened to the myth of the Holocaust at like around age 13. It was in one of your...
Oh, well, yeah, I don't think the Holocaust happened.
What would you say to people like me who will say to you that yes, white people came here, they took over this land from the Native Americans, they built this country on the backs of my ancestors, on the backs of black slaves. So now, where's my place in this country?
Well, first off, I would like to hear some words of appreciation. Think of the thousands of farm boys who died in some battlefield in the Civil War and spilled their blood that eventually purchased the freedom of the African slave. And I never heard anybody say thank you. I'd like to hear that to begin with. And then I would like to hear some appreciation for the millions of dollars that is spent every year on public housing, for health care, and for all the other things that the black community benefits from. What you benefit from here in this country is much better than what you'd be receiving if you lived in Kenya or Rwanda.
You came here voluntarily, okay? I came here by force.
I can't help it if my ancestors could stand on the shoreline of England and vision ships and went back into the woods and cut down timber and made ships and sails and conquered a new land. I can't help it that my ancestors could visualize and see new lands beyond the horizon. The moment, the very, very, very split second, you become proud, you become a conqueror again.
The only man today that has a national holiday in this country wasn't even American, and he was a rapist and he was a murderer. And he didn't discover anything, because how do you get here and claim you discovered it when people were already here?
Well, let me tell you something. If you're going to disparage the history of Columbus,
Yes, I am.
okay, then I'm not interested in doing the interview any further. Just that
Well, tell me
simple.
why.
Well, I don't need to know why. I hear enough anti-white rhetoric.
I am not anti-white, but I'm pointing out.
Sure you are.
No, I'm not. How do you figure?
are.
How do you figure that I'm anti-white, Tom?
Would you consider me anti-white, Rachel?
Sitting here next to me is Rachel Robb Pendergraft, the daughter of Pastor Tom Robb. Rachel is the highest ranking woman in what you would call the Ku Klux Klan out of all the factions.
Even though I have the position I do, I consider myself a stay-at-home mom. I homeschooled 3 children. I have 6 grandchildren. This is a situation, white genocide, that men and women both need to work on together and help protect our children, our families.
I have no problems with your billboard, White Pride Radio.
Right.
And I've said that on national media before.
I'm speaking from a white perspective here. I can't have a community in my home. I can't have a church to my own. I can't have a club to my own. I can't have a golf course to my own. I can't have anything that I can say is mine, my people, without them saying, you got to accept me.
Okay, so what can we all do together as a nation, all of us, blacks and whites, to
help
get
save
your
the
vision?
white race?
Help save the white race.
Absolutely.
Tom Robb will tell you that he is not my friend. He'll make that very clear to you. I am Tom Robb's friend, and I feel that one day he will come around.
Jeff Scoop, National Socialist Movement.
Daryl Davis.
Nice to meet you.
My pleasure. I've heard a lot about you for years.
National Socialist Movement travels all over the country on behalf of white citizens, on behalf of white rights.
You know, if people ask me, are you a white supremacist? No, I'm not a white supremacist. White separatist, white nationalist? Yeah, sure. Basically, when you have white people that are standing up in society today that are talking about white pride or white issues, they're often called racists or bigots or hate mongers. If you watch any of my speeches or things like that, I'm not out there saying nigger, kike, or cuss words or things of that nature, and most of our leadership doesn't either. You know, white people should be able to stand up for white issues just as the other races have without it being called hate.
Would you compare yourself to Martin Luther King?
In some ways, in some ways.
Which way?
He was campaigning for his causes in a peaceful manner, And that's what we're doing.
A black gentleman came up and he said, it's just black rage. It's just black rage. That's why I say he's doing that. It's just young black kids taking it out on whitey because it's black rage. Well, guess what, black man? There's white rage too.
The American melting pot experiment is something that we believe hasn't worked. History has proven that we can't all get along. I'm from Detroit, so my experience living amongst many black people is that a lot of them feel that white people have oppressed them and held them down.
Is there any truth to that at all?
I don't feel there is.
Really?
I don't feel there is.
When they were brought over here against their will, forced to work for nothing, their women were raped by the slave masters, their children were sold on the courthouse steps.
As far as slavery is concerned, it was a travesty, a human travesty, and it was something that should have never happened and should have never taken place, and it was very unfortunate. Even though it's been hundreds of years, and some of the animosity, I think, is still there.
Even go back 50 years, we still had Jim Crow laws. This was, 100 years after slavery, and we still see it lingering today. I'm not justifying hatred, but I'm just giving you a reason why there's some animosity there.
And that's what I'm saying. It's better if we separate amongst the racial groups so we don't have these sorts of things.
Do you predict that there will be a race war, or do you think it will be averted?
To speak a little more frankly and a little bit more radically, we wouldn't like to see a race war, but if it comes, we intend to finish it. What we'd like to see is a white nation state. We would like to see our country liberated from the Zionists, first and foremost, and then handle the racial issues from there.
So you consider Jews to be a race as opposed to a religion?
Absolutely. And we feel that they're basically an enemy of the state.
Are you a big proponent of the ideology of Adolf Hitler?
We are inspired by the political ideology of Adolf Hitler, but I don't like to get into the Holocaust, or as we'd say, the so-called Holocaust, Do
you believe that it did happen, didn't happen, or did not happen to the degree that we're taught it happened?
It did not happen to the degree that we're taught it happened.
Could I join the NSM? There are white people in the NAACP.
The membership is just open to white people.
So it's racist?
I wouldn't say it's racist.
Well, what is it?
It's geared towards white people.
You men and women that are here today, if we are going to take back this nation, we have to stand in solidarity. White power. White power!
What kind of music do you like, Jeff?
All kinds of music.
Yeah?
Rock, hardcore, oi, RAC, Rock Against Communism.
And do you realize that rock was invented by black musicians?
Oh, we're not going to go
there. Oh, yes, we are. Oh, yes, we are. Yes, my brother, we're going there. Well, who invented rock then?
Elvis Presley.
You're not being serious, right?
Why not?
I know a man as intelligent as you are, and trust me, I'm one of the biggest Elvis fans you'll ever meet. But Elvis Presley himself would say he did not invent rock and roll. He attributed it to people like Chuck Berry and Fats Domino and the blues.
You're a musician, so you probably know some more things about music than I do as far as going back and all that, but I think it's irrelevant. Whoever created the music, if music is good, music is good. It doesn't matter who created it, does it?
Well, it matters that credit is given where credit is due, because you're trying to give credit to the white forefathers of this country. What difference does it make? I'm here now. Ben Franklin's not sitting here.
No.
Abraham Lincoln's not sitting here. I don't give a shit about Abraham Lincoln or Ben Franklin. I'm just saying, like you're saying, what difference does it make?
I know black people invented peanut butter, and I like that.
What was his name? Come on.
Carver?
Yeah, what first name?
George Washington Carver.
My man.
There is one question Daryl has repeatedly asked members of the Klan.
How can you hate me when you don't even know me? Throughout my life, I've been looking for an answer to that. Well, who better to ask than someone who would join an organization whose whole premise is hating people who do not look like them. So I began seeking out members of the Ku Klux Klan.
They've never had an answer that they can come up with that justifies how they can hate me. One's perception is one's reality, okay? You cannot change anybody's reality. If you try to change their reality, you're going to get pushback because they only know what they know. Whether it's real or not, it's their reality. So what you want to do is you want to offer them a better alternative perception. And if they resonate with your perception, then they will change their own reality because their perception becomes their reality. So don't attack somebody's reality, regardless of what it is, even if you know it to be false. Give them a better perception and allow them to resonate with it, because it's always better when somebody comes to the conclusion, I've been wrong, maybe this is something I need to think about. Yeah, this will work. I'm interviewing a Klan leader, white supremacist, right? And I asked, how can you hate me? You don't even know me. All you see is this. Come in my room 5 minutes ago, and you've already determined, whatever you determine. Well, Mr. Davis, black people are prone to crime, and that is evidenced by the fact that there are more blacks in prison than white people. Now, I'm just sitting here listening to this guy. He's calling me a criminal, and but he's right. He's 100% right. The data and the statistics show that there are more blacks in prison than white people. So that feeds what he already thinks he knows, the data, right? But he does not go to find out why does that data show that. He doesn't realize there may be an imbalance in our judicial system that send black people to prison for longer periods of time than white people who've committed the same crime. All right, so I just listen to him, right? Because when he walks in that room and he sees me, I'm the enemy, his wall goes up, his ears are like this, he's ready to defend whatever his stance is. So I'm just listening. And then he goes on to say, black people are inherently lazy. They always have their hand out for a freebie. They're always trying to scam the government welfare programs and all that kind of stuff. So now he's called me a criminal, and now he's calling me lazy. And I'm just sitting here listening. I'm not pushing back. And then he says, and black people are born with smaller brains. And the larger the brain, the more capacity for intelligence. The smaller the brain, the lower the IQ. So now I'm being called stupid. Now, it's and he says that this is evidenced by the fact that every year the data shows that black high school students consistently score lower on the SATs than white kids do. Again, he's 100% correct. That does show that. Right? But he doesn't realize why. All right. Where do most black kids in this country go to school? In the inner city. Where do most white kids go to school? In the suburbs. It is a fact. Suburban schools are better funded. They have better facilities, better teachers, etc. I will guarantee you, white kids who go to school in the inner city can score just as low as those black kids, if not some lower. Black kids who go to school in the suburbs can score just as high as the white kids, if not higher. It has absolutely nothing to do with the color of the student's skin or the size of the student's brain, but it has everything to do with the educational system in which that child is enrolled. But of course, he won't go to research that because the data already supports what he already believes, that I'm inferior. So now he's called me all these things. I've already done my research on him. I know this guy sitting across from me just barely made it out of high school. I have a college degree. So do I throw that in his face? No. But because I sat there and listened to him, that wall is coming down. Because you cannot impart information to somebody when the wall is up. It's like hitting a brick wall. You want that wall to come down and then the ears open up. So now he's exhausted all his vitriol. And now he's wondering, how come this black person isn't pushing up against me like most of them do? And he's curious as to what I think about what he just said. So now the wall is down and he feels compelled to reciprocate because I sat there and listened to him insult me. So now it's my turn. I could go on the offense and say, no, you are the one who's a criminal. You're the one hanging black men from trees and dragging them behind pickup trucks and bombing their churches. And I would be 100% correct because the Klan has over a 100-year history of doing that. But if I did that, that wall would go right back up. So I don't want that to happen. I want to keep the wall down and let him hear what I'm saying. So I say, so rather than go on the offense, I go on the defense. And I say, listen, I hear what you're saying. However, I don't have a criminal record, and I'm as black as anybody you've ever seen. So I don't have a criminal record. I've never been on welfare. As far as my brain size goes, I've never measured the size of my brain, but I'm sure it's the same size as anybody else's. And as far as my SAT scores go, they got me into college. Now, I already know that he doesn't have a college degree. I do. Does it make me a better person than him? No. But it gives me a better experience, right? So I let him know this. He goes home. And he thinks, just like we all do at the end of the day, we reflect on what we did during the day. He thinks, man, I just had a 3-hour conversation with a black guy, when we didn't come to blows. And what that Daryl guy said, it makes sense. Oh, but he's black. But what he said was true. Oh, but he's black. So they're having a cognitive dissonance, right? And they struggle with that for a while. And then they have that dilemma. I got to make up my mind, what am I going to do? So the dilemma is, Do I disregard whatever color he is and believe the truth because I know it to be true and change my ideological direction? Or do I consider the color of his skin and continue living a lie? In most cases, people will follow the truth.
Daryl's approach has a lot of empirical support from the neuroscientists and psychologists who study persuasion. Just like how we know from psychological studies that people's amygdalas, the part of the brain that processes raw emotions, can actually hijack their rational minds and create a fight or flight response when they feel threatened or attacked, and how we know that presenting facts or arguments that directly conflict with people's core beliefs or identities can actually backfire, causing people to cling to those beliefs more tightly after they've been presented with contrary evidence. We also know a lot about how to talk to people in ways that are actually persuasive. In Robert Cialdini's book, Influence, he describes what he calls the principles of persuasion. One of these principles is called reciprocity, and it's based on the idea that people feel obliged to treat you the way you treat them. So, if you treat them with kindness and humility, most people will offer you the same courtesy. On the other hand, if you treat them with contempt, well, what do you think?
While I don't support any racist agenda or supremacy agenda, whether it's black supremacy or white supremacy or whatnot, I do support their right and their freedom of speech and their right to express their views. And in doing so, guess what? They reciprocated.
Another principle Cialdini describes is the idea of liking. It's almost too obvious, but it turns out that if someone likes you personally and believes that you like them, it's easier to convince them that your way of thinking is worth considering. One easy step towards being liked is to listen to others and find common ground through shared interests. This can be a bridge or a shortcut to getting other people to see you as a friend, or even better, as part of their tribe. Now, you might think somebody like Daryl Davis would have nothing in common with a KKK member, but that's not true.
If you spend 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, with your arch enemy, you will find that you have something in common with him or her. And if you spend 10 minutes, you'll find you have something else in common. And the more you find in common and you build upon what you have in common, the things that you have in contrast, like skin color, begin to matter less and less. Hey, Frank, how you doing, man? Good to see you.
How are you?
All right, great. Have a seat.
All right.
I've known Frank for a little over 3 years now. I consider Frank to be my friend.
I consider Daryl to be my friend as well. Daryl had been interviewed by different media personalities. He actually came to the defense of Traditionalist American Knights on a couple things. So I wanted to present this certificate of friendship to Daryl.
Thank you very much. It says, Traditionalist American Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, Certificate of Friendship presented to Daryl Davis in recognition for his friendship and contributions to the Traditionalist American Knights and demonstrating true friendship. While I don't necessarily agree with his separatist ideology, I consider Frank Ancona to be a friend of mine. Actually, I consider him to be a very good friend of mine. I've been into his home. I've met his wife and daughter, and we've had great conversations for several years now. Well, one day I'm going to bring Frank Ancona and his family to Washington, D.C. Bring your daughter and your wife and just hang out and see the sights and have dinner with me and my wife. And
sounds like a good plan.
Absolutely, we're going to do that.
Good time.
I think one day Frank Ancona will leave the Klan. And I think one day I'm going to be hanging this robe up in my museum.
I think the patience is it. That it's long term. You're not changing someone's mind like in 5 minutes of, chattering in comment sections or, yelling at someone at the dinner table like that you barely know. Like Daryl knows how to create long-term relationships and not be like thirsty for them to change their mind. Like, it's just by, like, look, we're here, we're hanging out, whether it's a network or, you know, offline or online network, doesn't really matter. And so I think the backfire effect that Sam found and that we're sort of talking about with walls going up is very real. And that's why it has to be long term.
Y'all see this fine figure right here? Huh? I didn't put this on overnight. I want to lose it. I'm not going to lose it by tomorrow. But if I work on it, over time, it will shrink down. When you're ingrained in this stuff, you're not going to shut it off overnight.
In the last 30 years, Daryl says 200 members across the country have left the KKK as a direct result of his involvement. Many of those who've left have given Daryl their robes and hoods. He keeps them in his home.
I get emails all the time. I get emails from people I don't even know. I even get emails from people who've seen me on podcasts or on TV shows. These are white supremacists, Klansmen, whatever, and say, you know, you made some sense in it. Would you like my robe? I've even gotten robes and hoods in the mail from people I don't even know. Yes. I was on this show with some neo-Nazis and some Klan.
And your name and age?
My name's Erin, and I'm 12.
So what do you think about your parents belonging to these organizations?
I think it's fine.
Why, sweetie?
Well, I mean, they're allowed to like their race. They're allowed to be proud of who they are, too.
Are you going to be a member of the group also?
Yes.
So now both daughters are in the Klan. And their father, he got sentenced to 10 years in a federal prison. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to call Tina, the mother. I tracked down her number. I called her. And when I said, Tina, this is Daryl Davis, she hit the roof. She cursed me up one side and down the other, wanted to know how did I get her phone number, what did I want, blah, blah, blah. I said, Tina, shut up and listen to me for a second. I flew with them to Chicago and drove them out to Marion, Illinois, to the federal penitentiary, where their father was in prison, so they could visit him. And nobody in the Klan had ever done that for them before. And so they had a turnaround.
Well, my little girl came a long way. You know, no thanks to her father and I. We really did our best to destroy our kids. And I do believe God does work through people, other human beings, and he most certainly uses Daryl Davis as an instrument because that man has touched a lot of lives.
Me and my husband Harley would like to extend our best wishes to the city of Rockville, Maryland, as you celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. Neither me nor my family are members or are affiliated with the Ku Klux Klan anymore.
Robert White got busted for assault and attempted murder, 2 black men with a shotgun. He was very vicious, very violent, and very racist. But at the very end, he said that he respected me. He went on to become a very good friend of mine. Will you come to my wedding?
Sure, I'll be at your wedding. If you want me there.
Why would you go to his wedding if you don't believe in the mixing of races?
I will attend the wedding if he wants me there, just because it's Daryl.
As a result of our friendship, he left the Klan. This is his Klan robe, this Grand Dragon robe. His day job was this. This is his jacket, Baltimore City police officer. And I'm glad that I have this stuff, because it shows that people can indeed change.
I got the name of the head of the Klan in Maryland. And they said, do you think Mr. Kelly will even talk to us? I said, I'll do better than that. I'll get Mr. Kelly to come back to my house, and you can interview the head of the Ku Klux Klan inside a black man's house.
And I believe in separation of the races. I believe that's in the best interest of all races.
Does he really? Or has friendship transcended the color barrier? Listen to Kelly at a Klan rally.
I'm a far right man to hell and back, because I believe in what he stands for, and he believes in what I stand for. A lot of times we don't agree with everything, but at least he respects me to sit down and listen to me. And I'll respect him to sit down and listen to him.
We were enemies. He's the head of the Klan, I'm a black guy. But he respected me to sit down and listen to him. And in exchange, he sat down and listened to me.
I did not respect what he had to say. I respected his right to say it.
We get to know one another and we do different things, you know. It hasn't changed my views about the Klan, you know, because my views on the Klan's been pretty much cemented in my mind for years.
We kept on doing that.
He and I became the best of friends.
And over a period of time, that cement that was in his mind that held his ideas together began to crack. And then it crumbled. And then a few years later, Roger Kelly quit the Ku Klux Klan. Today, he no longer believes in what he said on that video. And when Roger Kelly quit the Ku Klux Klan, he gave me his robe and hood. Okay, this is the robe of the Klan leader, the same one that you saw him wearing in the video. And of course, the hood and the mask.
We're headed up to a town in Washington County, Maryland, to visit a former Great Titan, which means county leader. He still has some of those views, but slowly but surely they are diminishing as his group of friends begins to widen in diversity. Hey, Gary, how you doing, man? How you doing? Good to see you.
Here's my Great Titan robe here. Had the black sash, stripes, and the belt. You want me to put it on?
Yeah.
I don't think it'll fit anymore.
You mean ideologically wise, or
It won't.
or physical?
A little buffed up now, you know.
But it still fits ideological, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's this to your right?
Oh, he's a friend of mine, Daryl Davis. He was taking the Grand Dragon of the Klan to do an interview at Howard University, and I was one of the bodyguards. And Daryl drove us down. He was our butler, or not butler, but a chauffeur. He was our chauffeur on the way down. What prompted me to join was I grew up in a neighborhood where, you know, it was mostly dominated by blacks, and, you know, we were kind of the minority, and, you know, if you got in a fight with one of them, then you had to fight them all. You were kind of by yourself.
So did you get into a lot of fights with black
Fighting
people?
a gang, yeah, I got in a lot of fights.
If you met a nice black woman today, would you date her?
Oh, there's a beautiful black girl next door down. I mean, she's absolutely beautiful.
Would you take her out?
She is probably one of the prettiest girls I've ever seen, white or
Would
black.
you take her out?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Would you have done it 20 years ago?
20 years ago, probably not.
What has changed in your belief system or your attitude?
Well, I probably had a girlfriend at the time. So
What if you didn't?
If I didn't, I don't know.
Come on, level with me, Gary.
I probably would have been, you know, chastised or...
And kicked out of the Klan.
Kicked out or whatever, you know.
What started to change that? Was it being friends with Daryl?
Yeah, when I met him, soon after that, I left.
I'm Scott Shepard. I'm a former racist, former member of the Ku Klux Klan.
Scott Shepard can relate to members of the Ku Klux Klan.
I was full of anger, full of hate.
He was one of them for 21 years. He even ran for office, appearing on national talk shows as a racist.
I'll be apologizing the rest of my life, but that's okay. I was born and raised in Indianola, Mississippi, which was a hotbed of racial turmoil and friction. The issues of my dad's alcoholism played a big part in my life. There were some incidents of violence that would instill PTSD in a soldier. And that affected me growing up. You know, it left me with low self-esteem, and I projected this hatred that I had for myself and this anger out towards people of color. At the age of 16, I entered the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan and lived a life as a racist. They fed me the spiel. We can take you in, give you a sense of family, belonging, protect you, because they play on fear.
How did you feel to get that call?
Important.
And that's the idea, right?
Exactly.
And what was their goal?
White supremacy by any means necessary, including murder. They destroyed my family. My older sister, she would call me on the phone. She asked me what I thought I was doing. I wasn't raised this way. My change in port was in Nashville, Tennessee. I was at a restaurant, had a few drinks. Police pulled me over, and they got me in. I failed a sobriety test. That threw me into the court system. I was forced into a rehab to get out of trouble. I said, yeah, I'm going to go to rehab, take the paperwork to the judge, have the charges dropped, and go on with my racist life. It didn't happen that way. I went in that rehab one person, came out another. I was forced to take a cold, hard look in the mirror, and I saw the problem. The problem was Scott Shepard. When she was on her deathbed, I was talking to my sister, and she said, you ever regret some of the things you've done? I said, every day. And she said, well, you know, you can use your past to help people. I opened up a blog. Once you hit that publish button, it's out there. I was scared to death what people were going to say or think. And I was totally surprised by the outpouring of love and support that I got. It gets emotional that, you know, for me, because I fell for that crap. It's very easy to do when you're in the mind frame that I was at 16, 17 years old.
Do you think any of this going in that direction was your way of showing rebelliousness?
Very extreme rebellion, because I was raised by a black lady. I went without seeing her for years.
'Cause you couldn't
years
face
and
her.
years. Exactly. Ironically, when I got out of the movement and stuff, went to her house, her arms were open.
As they always were.
Right. I saw Daryl on Discovery Channel. He was making friends with Klansmen, and I thought he was a crackpot. I looked him up. He gave me encouragement, and we've been friends ever since. I didn't mean to put you in the back of the bus, Daryl.
Yeah, me and Reverend Clark's, right?
Daryl can probably accomplish more than I could. I never thought I'd stand here in front of his house with a black man.
There you go. With a black man inside the house, right?
With a black man inside the house.
Yeah. So, it is possible that that change can occur. I really, really have a strong kinship with Scott. He has seen the light, and he feels the need to give back.
For people coming out of the movement, role models, I think, are incredibly important.
And in a lot of cases, these individual conversions have much bigger consequences and may end multi-generational cycles of bigotry.
The friends that I've made, I continue to keep. I never set out to convert anybody. I just set out to get that answer to my question, how can you hate me when you don't even know me? And in my quest to have that answer, they couldn't answer it. And some of them ended up converting themselves. I have seen things change. I have seen people change. And that inspires me. I've changed. Well, I would hope that by the time I'm gone, things like this would not be as prevalent. But if they are, perhaps this film will encourage others to do the same and do a better job, than I've been able to do.
We live in a time when a lot of people are saying that the only answer to hate and awful ideas is to meet them with even more hate, more anger, outrage, and even violence. Most of human history is filled with people allowing their arguments to turn into bloody, horrific warfare. It's only the commitment to dealing with our adversaries peacefully through free speech and conversation that has allowed us to become more civilized. Daryl might say that he's not really even doing anything special besides treating people with respect and kindness. Yet, it's still something almost no one else has the courage to do, even when the risks are considerably lower. And if these techniques can work to convince die-hard white supremacists that somebody like Daryl Davis is worthy of respect, imagine how effective they can be with your friends, neighbors, and coworkers who don't actually hate you or the things you stand for. Who knows? If you have more genuine conversations with people outside your bubble, you might even find yourself changing a little bit for the better as well. The way to deal with wrong or evil ideas isn't shouting them down or starting a fight. It's having the courage to do what Daryl did and making a friend out of an enemy.